session. Before we kickstart the discussion, I would like to thank our cloud communication partner Root Mobile, session partner IAB Tech Lab in partnership with Pubmatic, gold partner LogicServe Digital, session partner Agraha, bronze partner Bobble AI, and knowledge partner Kantar. The next session for today is a panel discussion on first-party data billing interactions. Joining for the session, we have moderator for the discussion, Mr. Gautam Mehra, co-founder ProfitWheel, Mr. Rajnish Kumar, Head Digital and Direct-to-Consumer Strategy ITC, Mr. Salil Kumar, Chief Executive Officer Digital India Today, Mr. Tabrez Alam, Chief Data Strategy Officer Bobble, Mr. Vignesh Narayanan, Head of Business Airtel Ads, and we also have Mr. Aviral Chandra, Head Digital and Institutional Alliances SBI General Insurance, who will be joining us in a short while. I would request all the delegates to kindly post their questions on Q&A tab. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the stage to Mr. Mehra. Over to you, Mr. Mehra. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Ritika. Yeah, so very excited to be moderating this session, especially with some amazing panelists that we have today. So our session is first-party data and building interaction around that, right? So we all know that there is a lot of talk about cookie and third-party data going thin or moving away. And then at the same time, there's a lot of introspection happening at the walled gardens. That is the Google, the Facebooks, the Apple, that are not allowing us to track and measure what is even more legit circumstances sometimes. But so there's a lot of variety of different conditions live today, and everyone seems to be thinking that first party data could be the answer to navigating this new world. So we're here with some great minds to discuss and figure out what we are thinking in terms of first party data and how people are kind of navigating through that. So I would like to kind of ask a question up first to each of you, and maybe you could just give a quick introduction to the audience, and then we can dive into the question itself. So my first question is to Mr. Rajnish. So we know that you come from ITC, and that's something which is now kind of going through a very, very huge overhaul. There's a huge emphasis onto the FMCG perspective. There's a huge emphasis on the direct-to-consumer. In fact, I am a consumer on the direct side of yours as well. I've bought a few things out there. So it was great to see that journey from where it was to where it is today. Could you just help us understand a bit more as how you navigated from where it was maybe a couple of years back to where it is today?
Sure, Gautam, and thank you very much for being a customer. So first of all, I must thank you for that. Hi, my name is Rajnish, and I'm looking after the digital strategy for ITC Group and also direct to consumer. So it has been a very interesting, satisfying, and a long journey. And Gautam, you were part of it at some point in time, 3-4 years back when we first started it. So it is very interesting because first of all, it was almost we were in a discovery mode. So these terms get thrown to you at us like first party data, second party data, third party data, and you try to understand what it is that you're looking at. Then in such a large organization and also a legacy organization that like ours, you have so much data that you don't even realize that where all it is lying. So the first task was to actually look at where all these data sets are there. And for example, you've collected large amount of market research data. You have collected a lot of sampling data that, do free sampling. That data is there. There's a lot of data of employees themselves. Then we have hotels. So if you just look at the scale and scope of the businesses that we are in, and then, look at the customers that we've been serving. So every, 2 out of 3 households in India consumes ITC products any given day, right? So almost a 60 crore, 670 crore population is consuming now. The thing is, how many of them you are servicing directly, which we are not? Obviously, it is through the Kirana stores, through the modern trade, through general trade, so many different, and none of the companies actually serve directly to the consumer. But obviously, you do interact with the customers in many, many different ways, right? So that's the idea that how do you, first of all, find out all the silos, where are these data sets lying, and then you start kind of combining them, integrate all these data sets, and then start to find meaning in terms of, okay, which are the relevant, and also try to tie up those data sets. So somebody who has bought Ashirwad Atta, have they also bought Bingo chips? Are they also customers of hotels? So you try to understand that how valuable and meaningful you can make that data, and then without being I will say, the right term is probably, but without intervening in terms of your ad, but being interesting in terms of what you are serving as a message. You try to show the customer something which is meaningful and something which solves a problem for them. So that has been a journey, and obviously the numbers have grown substantially, and it is a continuous thing. Today we are looking at enrichment in a very big way. Now that you've collected all this data, you want to build a golden record. So you are looking at, okay, can I have 5 attributes, 10 attributes, 20 attributes, demographic data, psychographic data, apographic data, technology, tilt of the customer, so on and so forth. And therefore, what can I do? Obviously, the direct to consumer initiative, ITC store, of which you are a customer, is a great way to accumulate customer data and insights of the product that they are buying, and it's all first party data, very rich first party data. So I think that's the journey which has been and quite satisfying and interesting, Gautam, so far.
Yeah, thanks. I remember being part of that journey 3 years back. But of course, you made a long way from then. And I think it's absolutely correct. No one talks about this unsexy part of big data, right? Which is basically getting it together, getting it in the right form and shape, collating it, making sure that it is actually it's actually present in a manner which can be analyzed, right? So forget AI and ML and stuff like that, but just basic, even to able to get that data in one place and to see that customer view. I think that itself is a Herculean task, especially for such a large company like yours with such desperate data systems. So yeah, I think with that, I just wanted to actually ask my next question to Vignesh, where I think where you start off from a very different place, right? So you start off with KYC verified, clean data, so to say, in a large respect. And then now you're trying to build something very sophisticated of a ad tech platform on top of that, which can give an alternative platform to advertisers who are looking for quality audiences to go after. So how does Airtel see this as business? How does it fit in the larger scheme of things? Where are you guys at? Would love to hear that for the audience.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Gautam. Hey guys, I'm Vignesh Narayanan. I head the advertising business for Airtel. On first party data, especially, I mean, it's I think huge favorite among every brand that you speak to, right? You're right, Gautam. We are kind of like, if you look at how our journey started off into our ads business, also is born from our experience as being one of the largest advertising brands in the country as well, right? So we have seen firsthand while going into the market and acquiring users, whether it be for our telecom business or whether it can be our DTH business or whether it's got broadband, etc. Right? It stems from the fact that I think we as a brand have been looking at multiple data sources across in the industry and have seen what a challenge it's becoming, right? With third-party cookie deprecation coming in tomorrow, we see it as a risk to business as well. So while we are looking for solution, we also realize that we are probably one of the largest custodians of data ourselves, given that we almost service across 35% of India's population, right? Across the telecom business only. So we see that we could probably bring a solution which not be used only for ourselves, but to advertisers at large, right? So that's what we started to look at. Obviously, like I think we heard from Rajnish, multiple challenges as far as data is concerned, given that we sit on a lot of it, a lot of data across multiple. Data is usually siloed, right? That's where bringing it together becomes a challenge. We have started to do that activity around the last couple of years, and I think we are seeing a lot of traction. We have been able to use our own first-party data for our own advertising needs as well, where we are looking at acquiring users for our own businesses. But now we are in a position where we are able to leverage this data not only for ourselves, but for advertisers who want to reach Airtel audiences, right, across our ecosystem, including whether it could be on our digital ecosystem on apps like Wink, Thanks, and Extreme, or whether it could be on our DTH ecosystem where people want to reach out to households, 19 million odd households that are there, right? So we are able to leverage this data and help advertisers reach these audiences at scale, right? So I think that's so our entire experience stems from our experience as brands, and that's where the solution comes across.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Vignesh. Actually, the fact that you are one of the largest advertisers and you're building an advertising platform now, I think that is a pretty good insight, and I think that kind of also changes the way in which you think through the entire platform. So I'll chat a bit more about that, but before that, I want to just ask a quick question to Salil, and if he can kind of introduce himself as well. So Salil, I mean, at India Today, I mean, of course, traditionally India Today was an offline publication, but now digital for a while, and you've been monetizing that website also for a bit, and the other assets. Now with this whole cookieless future, so to say, which we call, and we have been told that that's coming around very soon. Already, some part of the internet traffic cannot be serviced via this third party cookies. So, how has this journey been for you? Because going from a very primary metric, right, a very basic form of measurement that we've built our business around, now to suddenly kind of move to things like identity and first party from a publisher angle, it's how do you see it, and I'll be very interested to get those thoughts as well from that side of the spectrum. Sorry, Salil, you're on mute right now.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, my name is Salil, and thanks, Gautam. We at India Today Group have always been looking at opportunities wherever they come. We are seeing this as a new opportunity rather than a challenge. Again, a lot of this conversation that we are having right now is hypothetical, depending on when the whole thing will get finally implemented. Because I hear my predecessors, Rajnish spoke about it, Vignesh spoke about it, that how they are using their internal data. So there are some set of companies which have that kind of data. Obviously, our organization, we're building that data as we go along. So there are various opportunities that you see, how it moves forward. First party data is going to be key for everyone. We all understand that. Question is what Rajnish mentioned. Can I use it? How well can I use it? What is the way an advertiser will look? Because for us, it's advertising is one of the largest revenue sources, followed by, say, subscription then. Subscription on its own brings in huge amount of data for us. It shows the interest of the user, what magazine is he subscribing for, what channel is he viewing, how much time is he spending, what speed is he connecting? Is he connecting through what device? Is it a smart TV? Is it a tablet? Is it a desktop or a mobile? In mobile, what devices? So you're all building your own big data structures. But as a challenge, what you actually see is what will happen to your programmatic advertising, your network advertising. Those are the areas where we'll really have to work around and see what actually comes out. Currently, Google's own sandbox is experimenting. They're working on that. They're giving us various opportunities. They are supporting all publishers across, saying, here are certain opportunities. Let's learn and see together how we move on. So it's exciting times, but the best part is that we strongly believe that, if you look at all the other channels, for example, whether it's TV, whether it is print, or it is billboards or other segments of network, I mean, we don't really focus as much. Internet was the only one where we are saying focus on data, because you have an opportunity to target a user, retarget the user. I did a search on a product. Affiliate marketing comes in place. Rajnish or Vignesh don't miss an opportunity. If I go and do a search on broadband speed, suddenly I'll get black coming up after me, chasing me, saying. But the point is, how do you fulfill that cycle of actual advertising? So is Ashirwad Atta, if I've seen it at Amazon, then how does he target me back? Those are areas of concern that are going to grow. And I think the pie should grow. We'll have an opportunity for all of us to grow in revenue. There are going to be a little bump. We are going to feel those bumps. But I think before it gets actually implemented, we are confident internally we'll be able to build that stack, which is going to be robust and be able to give my advertisers that opportunity to spend more with us. Obviously, you'll have these companies which offer data services. They will also gain huge amount. and we have to see which service comes out best. We are doing it internally, so we are all trying to build our own right now. That's how we are all working on this space. Back to you, Gautam.
Yeah, no, very interesting, Salil. I think, yeah, the next, all I can say is the next 18 to 24 months is going to be very exciting times for everyone, and also horrifying times maybe as well. But yeah, it's a journey, and I think we'll go through it. That actually leads to my next question for Tabrez, and very interesting. We got perspectives almost from a large network of clients, different brands of the client that's coming together. We got one a new age ad network that's coming from first party data born on the telecom. We've got the content publisher themselves come up with their own monetization and ads there. And of course, magazines are the original database marketing companies, right? I mean, that's what they were priced at initially. So, and now coming to youth Tabrez at Bobble, which basically is completely new age in the sense that it is almost, I could call it a data company in that sense, where it's like it's built out from that, and you are maybe handling millions of events that are happening in real time on your product every day. So how is it for you when you look at first party data of yours? What's your strategy? How do you look at it internally, and how do you look at it adding value to the advertisers?
Sure. Thanks, Gautam, for posting the question. And great. I mean, all the people who have spoken, they are from different domain. We're talking about D2C to a publisher to, a brand which is into, getting a lot of first party data. So, I mean, for me, spending about a decade in the ad tech or the martech space so far, right? I have actually gone through a lot of data aggregations, right? Be it on the third party level or be it on the first party level, right? At Bobble, the data is being treated very differently. Why? Because, how we started collecting the data and what is the reason for collecting that data is far more important, because now you need to look at Bobble as a consumer tech company, which was basically in a mission of enriching everyday smartphone conversation, right? Because our portfolio was a keyboard, right? So we wanted to make it more expressive, more personal, right? And innovative in the way people will type, the sort of content which will be pushed over, the language which will be used, right? The camera, which is a talk in a smartphone, right? Nowadays people don't buy just smartphone; they look at a best camera as well. So in order to do so, we had to collect a lot of customer attributes, to present and give them back the sort of interaction they're looking at, right? By creating their own bobblehead, a camera was required, and obviously, the people are coming from different parts of India. So we were covering the tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. So the language that we need to meet on. Now, this cannot be done unless I don't get a lot of footprints from the user itself, right? So that is where, there was a new evangelization which started happening, right? That was something that excited me as well, right? That, how much data we can collect, right? Every typing, everything that happens on a smartphone gives you an intent, right? Now, how do you basically, collect those intents and convert them into a sort of a meaningful content, which you can give it back to the consumer so that, the conversation becomes much more interactive. The second is that is where we got the idea as well that, hey, since the data aggregation in the market is totally on a third party data, right? And that is slowly and gradually going to die off. Why? Because, the latency of the data in such cases, if marketers want to use that, is going to kill the entire perspective of real-time targeting that Salil was talking about. You see an Ashirwad at Amazon, instantly you're retargeting. That's the only solution. But what is behind those consumers? I think that is where the Bobble started thinking that, all these intents can be translated into a decision of the user, right? And as per the Gartner study, if you've seen recently, all your first party customers on your platform wants to see a relative advertisements. They don't, nothing comes free of cost. If they are using a free platform, there has to be some monetization model. People, I think consumers are learned enough to understand that, there should be there could be an ad which will be, posted onto the platform as well. But what they see is their own choice. And we at Bobble realized that, even if we are showing certain ads on our platform, it should be of the choice of the customer, right? So that, it basically helps them to translate into a decision, right, which is more relevant to them. So for instance, if I'm looking out for jewelry, I should not see a car ad, right, because that's what I'm trying to make a decision for, right? So the AI, the ML, everything which was incorporated in terms of making the keyboard much more expressive, that same knowledge has been sort of translated into a CDP, so that we start collecting our user data. Now this CDP can be married to an external DMP, where we can help brands like ITC or anybody, right, to basically enrich that. Rajnish was talking about that enrichment of their own first party data. I think that is going to be there. So this is what we have done so far.
Yeah, no, very interesting. I think just the depth of the attribute of data that you have and the kind of modeling you can do on that. I think that's very exciting to see companies like you kind of like being in that space and doing that. So in fact, I just wanted to kind of open this up to everyone. We've spoken I think a lot about D2C, and we've kind of said that how that is something which advertisers are going towards, and these are companies that are actually betting on first party data, right? I mean, this is the whole point, that you want to go direct to consumer because you want to cut out everybody in the middle, and you want to have that direct customer connect, have that information, have that data about them to help them make better decisions on their day-to-day purchases. So just I mean Rajnish, you could maybe kick it off, but it's open to everyone that how do you see marketing strategies change now that D2C is an integral part of the entire mix?
Yeah, so Gautam, D2C, if you see the last 3 to 5 years, it has just taken, the leap, and it is growing like anything. And the next 10 years is poised to make it $1 trillion industry or something. These different numbers are there, but the fact is that we are all seeing the growth of D2C. And when you say D2C, actually, the brands, even large business, every whether it's ITC or HUL or PNG, whichever large company, or even smaller brands which are a single product category, all of them have been growing. And it is not that they are only selling from their own website or their own asset. They are also selling through the marketplace exchanges, whether it is Big Basket, whether it's Nika, or whatever the product categories, Amazon, etc. So the whole strategy consists of the fact that wherever the customer is there online, you want to reach out to them, and that's your direct to consumer strategy. Now within that, there are two legs. If you kind of draw a wall between, when you are sending a customer to a third party marketplace through your ad, why would you want to do that? Because you do not get any data back from that, right? Whereas the same purchase, if you can send the same customer to your own website or your own asset, the entire purchase cycle, transaction, in fact, we map all the entire clickstream data also. So anybody who lands on our website, and then thousands of people, whatever clickstreams they are doing, what are the hot spots, what are cold spots, where they are seeing a particular banner, or they are spending time more on a category, the entire thing is mapped, and accordingly we change our website also, and the promotions and so on and so forth. Apart from that, the products that they buy, there are ratings and reviews, and now we have 10,000 reviews, right? And we have thousands of ratings. We have so many comments from customers, right? All this data is my data, apart from transactional data. So if I run this website, let's say for 5 years, and it is growing at a certain number, just imagine the amount of insight that I have about the customer behavior. I think that becomes a single source of my new product development, my packaging development, my messaging to the customer. So almost I'm forming a bond with the customer. It is not about data, it is about the bond and the attachment to the customer. Whereas in the third party marketplace, there is no bond. I mean, all the products we all know are mutually replaceable. So it's not they're exclusive. I can buy one noodle or the other noodle. There's so much choice. I can buy one atta or the other atta. I can buy one biscuit or the other biscuit. But on my portal, on my website, only my products are there. So it is, the customer is my customer, whereas the customer is of the third party marketplace. I think that is the basic difference. And if you top it up with the fact that you do not get any data at all back for what the customer behavior is, even the transactional data, that I think is a huge detriment. I will just add one more point why this is growing, and why the whole D2C and first party data strategy is very, very important. Because the third party marketplaces, and it is right for them, it is a business for them, they are also developing products based on the same insights and the same transactional behavior and the same consumer preferences, based on your brands and your products. and they're putting it up like a private label, right? So and they have the ability to put them on in front of your product, or in terms of pricing, they can. So you are actually creating a tremendous detriment for yourself on the long term. But yes, they will coexist. They have to show value to the brands have to show value to the marketplaces. They will exist, and the third party, I mean, the whole D2C strategy will not be without a marketplace, that's for sure. But it will also have your own first party, or your own data assets, or your own websites, or your own app that is also going to be there. I think this trend will grow. That's what my point.
Yeah, no, I 100% wholeheartedly agree on everything that you said, I personally think that it's going to be fantastic for brands that embrace it like yours, and that's quickly, and it's going to be definitely a detriment to the brands who don't, because yeah, like you said, it's not just about selling to them, but it's about understanding them and forming that bond with them, and that going back into things like product development itself. That's something which is quite mind blowing in my mind. I mean, it's not something which is very product development is hard, right? And then to be able to sit in a room and do it with focus groups, and then to have the kind of scale that a website has with real time feedback coming, rating coming, I think that itself is a very very a large thing. So Vignesh and Tabrez, Salil, anyone wants to add to this?
I mean, I understand, because, following up D2C brands, right, in terms of their approach, what I feel that, the first party data is all about, your key and a deep product and service insight that you have about your customers, right? And the bigger challenge for D2C has been, forming that direct relationship with your customers, right? Gathering intelligence, right, on your customers. How you sell it. I mean, how is the best way that you can sell them directly, right? What I feel is that, the low cost CPG products who have always struggled with getting the intelligence that they desire to have, right, from their retail partners, right, which has not been given to them, right, is possible, right? Because when, let's say we talk about itconline.com, right, who has sort of, grown and, started collecting their data, and they're just trying to, cleanse that data, if I have to say, right, because they want to ensure that the accuracy of their first party data is through a rigorous cleansing which is happening within their premises. It becomes equally important that, marrying that data, like, I mean, I think they're open to it, but at the same time saying this should be with every D2C partner. Now, that data enrichment that I talked about is very important as to, where and with whom you're doing the enrichment, right? We've seen a lot of solution which has come into the market, which could be like a Google marketing platform, or it could be like a Salesforce Crux, Adobe, right, who are basically sort of hosting your data, right? But marry them with the third party data, right? There's always a latency. That's what I say, right? So that is where it becomes very important that you choose the right partners in terms of the enrichment, because that is which is required, right? Once you have checked the data hygiene, you've done the augmentation, right, the right kind of enrichment and deduplication of the identification is definitely required. So it's a time that where all the first party data should start talking to each other, I think, because of the cookieless environment, that the danger that we see, right? Already I see a bunch of publishers forming a consortium in terms of publishing their own first party data, which was lacking, right? Similarly, in this space, I think a lot of people in D2C environment have to come together to formulate one consolidated environment where we marry each other data, and then we basically enrich the data, and that resolution becomes important, that identity resolution that we are looking at. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, makes sense, Tabrez. So
The
actually,
only, sorry, I was just wanting to add one thing which I heard
sure,
while I heard Rajnish through and through,
yeah,
and this was more related to Rajnish. The point, I think, the first party data being utilized internally by organizations is something that you've churned out very well, saying where are the aspects that you're using. But what about bringing in new audience? What about the idea of the third party going away? The challenge for advertisers is going to be bringing in new audience, or targeting audience that may be different places. It's like, how do I bring him back to my system? It's like an advertiser. That seems to be a little difficult if this goes away. Like I did a search of a product, say on, let's talk of an airline. You usually do your flight booking and you check. Then that ad usually with the destination. keeps chasing you right through and through. Now, that's where you're trying to recall and remind him and say, for example, let's take Vignesh, who's from Airtel. You did a search on the kind of broadband connection speed you're looking at. And then Airtel Black keeps chasing you again and again. And you say, okay, wow, that's, do I go or do I not go? Sometimes you bought it and it still chases you. Now, that still chases you after you bought will further be more if the third party, the way it is being phased out. So, how do you look at that, Rajnish? I heard, and that was really wow to understand you saying that the data is being used internally, first-party data for internal processes.
Actually, may I just suggest that Vignesh speak his mind here, because I think he's very well placed from a non-cookieless part to kind of like answer this. So I'd like to hear your views.
Salil, thanks for talking about Airtel Black multiple times. I hope you're a customer already. So
no, I hope you keep advertising with us.
No, definitely, Salil. No, I think when it comes to first-party data, right, while people, I've heard multiple brands over the last many years have been trying to build first-party data, but people have to realize also that it's a long-term game, and it takes a lot of effort, and there's a lot of cost involved in building a first-party data, right? While I think it's a dream for everyone to be able to selling from their own websites and not having to work with any third party, but that's not the reality of today, right? So I think there is no escaping from the fact that we do have to work with partners. While I understand that there are huge challenges facing us right now, 2 or 3 effective challenges, right? One is the fact that third-party cookie deprecation is happening today or tomorrow, or whenever Google decides it's finally the time, right? Or when they decide Flock is the way to go. The second part is that you have the same customer across multiple devices. How do I get one identity of the customer, right? That's the second one. And third thing that's coming up is also consent, which is not, it just got upon us, but probably not now, but coming soon. So I think when it comes to data, I think the way for any D2C brand is to go to figure out who are non-competing partners they can partner with, and figure out what are the clean room initiatives kind of thing that they can work on, and how can they leverage each other's data. So it's in a non-competing space, right? They're able to start working on. You might not own the data, but it will still give you an opportunity to be able to start still target or reach those users, right? Till then, I think it's, as I said, it's going to be a long-term game, and I do wish people who are looking at getting into the journey all the best.
Yep. In fact, I wanted to answer Gautam, Salil, right? In terms of, your ad chasing you while you have completed your journey, right? So that happens. Why? Because there's always a latency, which I was talking about. The third-party data marketplaces which are sitting, right? They always have a decayed information of the user, right? So let's say, I opted for a pizza, right? That's an intent, which I wanted to have, but it's a very short-lived intent. But then a DMP getting that information after a month, which has been sort of ingested into the system, my intention will not be there. So similarly, what happens, on a data aggregated model, those intentions are lately broadcasted, right? And that's the reason you see, even if you have completed your Goa trip, you're still getting ads from, SpiceJet that, hey, you're traveling to Goa and this is what you need to have, right? So I think this entire thing needs to be changed now. I think real-time broadcasting becomes very important. Privacy is one factor, right? Everybody is scared about carrying their own GIDs, what's happening with GIDs or cookies, right? I think this eventually is going to change, right? You'll see a lot of new mechanism coming in where Android features like broadcasting intent could be used for real-time targeting within the devices. So I think that is where we have to move our focus from sort of a decade ingestion of data of DMPs to CDPs. That is how you will best going to manage your first party data, and then those CDPs from different environment talking to each other, so that your collaboration brings about not only enriching your existing customer, but then forming lookalike for the new acquisition that you can get into the system.
Yeah, in fact, one point that I wanted to actually bring about even Rajnish and Salil, actually all of it, was that it's come up part of the audience questions. I thought we'll just pick it up from there, but it's something that's at the back of my mind always, is that, how do you kind of balance personalization and privacy, right? Because they seem to be at odds. So that's one. And then how do you kind of like be personalized but not obtrusive? Like, when does it get creepy and when is it welcome? So it's like it's something which it's on, I think, everyone's mind, including me. I don't think there's any right answer there, but I would love to have that discussion with all of you.
So I mean, I can go first as an advertiser and as a brand as well, right? That's
Sure.
what. No, I think it's a balance that the industry is trying to find right now, right? I don't think we have that right balance yet, but I think we have started conscious efforts on figuring out what that balance should be. Um, the person who can actually make the decision is the user themselves, right? Unless the user tells us it is not relevant, or unless we figure out a way to make sure we continuously get consent or we get feedback from the user whether this ad is repetitive or this particular messaging is not relevant, etc. Unless we have those mechanisms built in and we are quite intuitive in terms of what a particular user or subscriber is looking at, we can make a lot of rules, but they might get outdated pretty soon, right? I think that's where we need to go. So I think the fact that we have started on this journey to find that balance is, I think it's a great step in the first place. From the time when we're getting spammed with ads, I think every website you go to is almost like you're spammed with ads everywhere, right? So how do we make sure that even as a publisher as well, when we at Airtel Ads, we want to make sure we have the right kind of balance between showing an ad to a user to making sure he's not saying the same ad again, to making sure that he's not saying too many ads in a day, etc., right? So I think you have to balance the experience with the advertising. Otherwise, you're going to not have these users with you in the long run.
Absolutely agreed. So Vignesh, this is what we have done on our platform as well. When we have an ad slot, we try to make it sure that we are controlling the frequency cap right from the demand side partner.
Tabrez, I would just like to kind of like, we have a little short of time, so I just wanted
Yep.
Rajnish's view also on this, because I just wanted a view from the advertising perspective, in the sense that, now that you have first party data in some places, Rajnish, you don't have first party data in the marketplaces. So, you have a partial view, right? So you have a view here, but you don't have a view there. How do you kind of straddle between those two worlds, and how do you make sure that your advertising is still, effective in this so-called first party world, and then there's a whole world that you don't have that first party for? So just wanted to get your views on that.
So yeah, everybody is pointing out that the third party data obviously is going away, and you have limited access, and that brings you the scale. I think Vignesh made a point, and that's a very relevant point, that it's a long journey and it is a very costly journey, expensive journey as well. It's not like you want to build a 50 million database of first party enriched and it is going to cost you nothing. Just the storing and using that AWS tools will cost you a lot of money, apart from the support and all that. Right. So when you say that, I think what we want to start with is, first of all, make your ads, make your content relevant and contextual. That is very, very important, because that will give you the first, what I think Vignesh and Tabrez also were pointing out. And like India Today is there, if you're putting a programmatic ad there. So first of all, the user themselves will tell you that whether they're whether they're liking your content, it is contextual, it is relevant to them. Then there are things like fit for format, fit for the device, right? Fit for the future. Is it so? How are you basically delivering the content? I think that is very important. And then I think we have not spoken about it, and I must bring it a little bit here, is the whole concept of second party data, right? Where there is no conflict of interest. I think that has not happened in India. I do not know why, but it should happen now that the third party cookies are going away and everybody's building their first party. So if I have a first party data and Vignesh has first party data and Salil has first party data, Tabrez has first party data. So if there is no conflict of interest, I mean, people can come together, right? A phone company and an airline company have no conflict of interest, but actually they could be very beneficial as far as the sharing of data is concerned, right? A food delivery company and a company like ITC, which is bigger into foods, are also somewhere, looking at the same customer, serving the same customer. Obviously, there is no conflict of interest. So you can look at those second party data alliances also, which has not happened, and I think that can happen at scale. So while a Vodafone and Airtel cannot, share data, but ITC and Airtel can always share data, right? The only thing is, my data could be very small and Airtel data could be very big, but we can always look at how to. So while Vignesh will be looking at monetizing data, right? Tabrez is already looking at monetizing their data, and there is no conflict of interest, because they are keypad company, and they they have a different experience from the consumer point of view. And I'm selling physical products, biscuits and and food products. So there's no conflict. But if you can look at a data exchange or kind of a second party alliances, I think that is important. That I think that will start very soon as the companies and this whole data strategy matures across organizations. That kind of alliances will grow.
No, I think you've touched upon something really, really close to my heart. So I know second party is that unwanted child per se, but it's actually one of the most powerful tools that we have in our weapon. I'm not supposed to do any self promotion here, but whenever you want to talk about it, we'll definitely have a very interesting chat on that. There's something very exciting that we also built up on that, which I think can solve for privacy and for scale. But I personally, I think second party is definitely under leveraged as of today, and I completely buy your point that we should have more such conversations and not be worried about and hoard our data in that sense, but kind of be slightly bit more open, along with, of course, keeping all the privacy, legality, compliance in place. But we can definitely have more open conversations on that. There's this one small question. I'll just kind of quickly take it up myself only. It's on what's the impact on lookalike audiences and on and in terms of accuracy. So I think just to kind of mention to you, Abhay, that look, anything that's on the signed in information of Google and Facebook will not have any impact with this third party cookie who's going away, because that's signed in information. So that targeting will not get affected. But things like which are relying on cookies, which is like programmatic and stuff like that, those will, of course, there will be a bit of a impact. And remarketing campaigns are already being affected with iOS today as of now, because Apple doesn't allow you to even get the MAID or anything of that customer anymore today. So you can't really remarket to an iOS customer even today. So just wanted to get that off and cleared up as one question. But Salil, you wanted to add something. I could see that when Rajesh was speaking on this. So do you want to kind of like have that up?
That's fine. No.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So I think we have about maybe just a couple of minutes. Let me just check if you've covered questions. So there's one question that's come upon on how to learn on the security, governance, and compliance considerations for collecting. So I think how to learn, there are courses, but I think what's more critical is that to understand what is the level of compliance and governance and security that you want to go in for, at what level. I think maybe Vignesh, you could talk a bit more from that. You have sensitive KYC data, so do you want to kind of shed a light that, because it just feels that all data should be 100% protected, 100% compliant and stuff like that, of course, but when you are a business, you have to kind of like see how that rolls out and then see what the advantages are at every stage, right? So could you just kind of speak more on that?
As a telco company, we get asked this first, right? Always. I think data is like the core of our business, right? In the sense that we don't allow any Airtel data to leave our servers at any point of time. Right? Any data that we have is completely privacy and consent compliant. Right? But given that India is kind of like evolving, I think there are already other examples across in US, CCPA, and then GDPR and other regulations which are coming in, which are kind of like already deal with these aspects. So I think there is a lot of things that we can pick up from there. But at the same time, as I said, the industry is also trying to find the balance between, hey, how do I not destroy an advertising industry, and how do I still make sure that users get relevant content which is useful for them, right? I think any consumer is disgusted only when he sees an ad which is completely not relevant, right? But if you see something that's relevant, then he's more than happy, right? So I think you're still trying to figure out how to give him convenience. As far as Airtel is concerned, we are quite happy to use our insights that we get from our data. Anything on data monetization is about insights, not about the data itself. Any data that we have from Airtel always stays within Airtel, and we don't monetize it that way. But we do want to figure out how to use our learnings from that data to help advertisers try to reach those audiences, right? So that's where it is. And as Rajnish mentioned earlier, the future could be that how do we allow two first-party data sets to interact in a place or in a virtual space, still compliant to all these regulations and making sure there is no privacy and privacy challenges, etc. So I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. Perfect. I think we're exactly on point. Unless someone wants to add something, we're actually on point of our session. So should I hand it back to Ritika or to Rajnish? Did you want to say something? Okay. So I think I'll just hand it back to Ritika. Ritika, I think we're kind of done here, and thank you so much for allowing us to have this discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all the panelists for giving such an insightful session. And I would also like to thank our audience for being a part of this event. So thank you everyone, and please stay back for the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.